Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Total Basis Podcast. I am your host, Felipe Milicio. With me is Sean Flannery, and we have a special guest, Jim Grave. I always want to call him Jim Graves, multiple, plural, but it's just one. How you doing, Jim, this morning?
It's Jim Gravy, just like the food. But I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm all right. We're here talking some fantasy baseball with you. Thank you for joining us. Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. A little about myself. What do you want to know? I'm a big Cubs fan.
Oh, you poor thing.
That's a good year for me.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Oh, this is Boston.
Howdy, bud.
Yeah, so I'm a dad. I'm a dad and a big Cubs fan.
You're originally from Iowa, right?
Yes, I'm from Iowa. I have lived in Rhode Island for the last 7 years. So, yeah.
People actually live in Rhode Island. I thought it was like North Dakota.
People do live in those little states. People do live in those.
It's a very densely populated state as well.
Yes.
I probably should preface this by saying that Jim Gravy is a member of our Baseball Life group. For those who are listening to audio only, we are streaming live in our Facebook group over at Baseball Life. He's a real devout member of ours, so we thank him for that. He's also part of our fantasy baseball league at Fantrax. If we haven't mentioned that already, that's why we brought him in to talk about his fantasy baseball team this year. And with that being said, Jim, I just want to pick your brain as to this is something I wanted to do with everybody, but this is a shortened season, so unfortunately we couldn't do it for everybody on the team or in the league. And I figured I'd talk to you because you're a Cubs fan. That's why there's Cubs bias here. But what was your strategy coming into this particular draft way back in March? What was your strategy in selecting your team?
Sure. So yeah, I like to go with players who, like I've really watched and I know a lot about. Yeah. So for me, a draft is, I feel like a draft is like years in the making in some ways. Like you pick, you go with guys like Tommy La Stella who kind of fall under the cracks. But like I know Tommy La Stella is a lot more likely to have a year that he was pre-ranked to have, and so far he's not been bad. Or guys like Tim Anderson. I've been kind of banking on Tim Anderson for years. So I guess that's always, when it comes to a draft, my strategy is, picking the guys who I've watched and I feel like are, going to have a real long-term future. And I also don't really pick great catchers, as you can see on the screen. Kurt Suzuki. I typically let my catchers go very late in the draft. I feel like people jump the gun on catchers. I know they're hard to find. But Christian Vasquez, I feel good about. So that's another strategy I have with a draft.
Listen, man, don't worry. Nobody picks catchers unless, Sean, would you say that Gary Sanchez might have been the number one overall catcher? Well, I guess JT Realmuto. But
yeah, so I had Realmuto going into this year, and that's paying dividends. I don't have him in our league, but I have him in several other leagues, and it is definitely working out well. But I'm with Jim here. That is, you can't really spend too high on catchers. Granted, it's tough in our league because it's the 2-catcher league, which, aren't as prevalent out there. And so it's not like you can go find somebody on the waiver wire. It's, the 2-year draft, and you better hope they stick.
Yeah. No, it's very frustrating. And even, like I said, I mentioned Gary Sanchez. He's been struggling, and I had him last year. He's always hurt. And the low batting average definitely hurts you. But, you get him because of the high upside. You get him because you can get 30 home runs in any given season. Aside from that, Jim, what has anything in particular that you were, I guess for lack of a better term, you were proud of that happened in this shortened season for you so far this year with this Fantrax team?
Well, I was really excited about my team after the draft. Right now I'm in dead ass last, but my points are are spread out. I feel like I'm pretty, if this is a keeper league, I'm happy about it still. It's guys I'll have a good group of guys going into the next season. I'm also really excited about the flexibility my players have. I like the multi-position players and just not leaving empty gaps in there. That's really always been a pretty good strategy for myself.
Yeah, I see you got Cody Bellinger, Chris Bryant on your bench. I mean, we can see why you're in dead last right now. And I forgot to mention that to start. Poor Jim is in last place at the moment, but he still has a shot to move up as those bottom 6 teams are neck and neck with each other.
Yeah.
And Sean, would this be a good time to mention it to all the people in our league that?
Hey, everybody, playoffs start tomorrow. Are you freaking out yet? Because I'm freaking out. But I do want to talk about Jim's team real fast. I'm looking over here at the draft results.
Go ahead.
And in hindsight, I really did like his draft. You started off, you had the 3rd overall pick. You got Bellinger. I probably would have gone with Yelich, but I definitely don't fault you. Bellinger, Yelich, and Betts really could have gone in any order. And then you got 2 great starting pitchers in Scherzer and Bieber. So you have the legitimate number 1 pitcher in baseball in Bieber. And Chris Bryant's just been hurt. JD Martinez is like Bellinger. And they've just – both of those guys have been, pretty steady, expected to be some of the best hitters in baseball. And they've just come out flat. And in such a short season, it really hurts. Yeah, as Felipe highlights, the 224 average for Bellinger.
Yes.
But going into next year, we have 3 keepers, right, Felipe? I definitely think you have a great core. For your 2 keepers, I'm assuming one's going to be Bellinger, one's going to be Bieber. I don't know who your 3rd will be, but I think a core around Bellinger and Bieber is a very, very solid start.
Yeah.
Even if it's not working out this year.
I'm not sure about Chris Bryant. I'm just kind of thinking about him, but I don't know.
I mean, the way Tim Anderson's playing, he's a legitimate.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
actually be a 3rd keeper.
Actually, you know what? That's probably what I'm gonna do. He has learned how to hit in the last 2 years, and when you put that in with his speed, his power, Tim Anderson is probably a good take.
Yeah, I'm always the skeptic when it comes to Tim Anderson, but if he's doing it 2 years in a row, even in a shortened season like this, some of that skepticism is starting to wear away on me. That he actually there might be something different here.
How old is Tim Anderson again? He's mid-20s, right?
Let me pull it up right here. 27.
27. Yeah. Tim Anderson's got a good future. I'm probably gonna keep him.
Question for you. I noticed that you don't have any minor leaguers. You can keep those guys next year automatically, right?
Yeah, I need to do that. I was thinking about that just yesterday. I'll figure out how to do that. I have to admit, this is my first season using Fantrax or really.
There's definitely a learning curve. Like it is.
I've struggled a lot with that, and I think that's also part of why I've been in last. Like I'm just. I've always used ESPN. I've used Yahoo. I know CBS had a thing. I don't know if they still do, but had that years ago. But I've never done Fantrax, and I'm kind of like a fish out of water with it. So, I need to figure out how to get minor leaguers and keep them on my team.
Are you guys seeing what I'm sharing here? Since he is talking about prospects, I figured might as well come take a look at some of the prospects that are listed here. What kind of players do you like? Maybe we can find one for you, and we'll pick one for you live.
Hold on. Are we literally okay, I always tell people, hey, you want help on your fantasy team, you got to tune in. And we're literally helping someone right now fix his team.
Yeah, he's tuning in. Live. He's on air. He's here.
Oh, my God. Hey, this is the life group difference, you guys. This is the life group difference. I keep telling you all. You guys don't want to listen to me.
You can get Christian Pache. Felipe already had to dump him. Not much of an offensive player, but, exciting speed, kind of like a Victor Robles, might get you some steals next year. You have flamethrower Edward Cabrera. Daniel Lynch. I'm trying to think. Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll. I like the Arizona outfielders. Brandon Marsh is already in AAA for LA. Oh, I hate when this happens on Fantrax. There we go.
It's a learning curve for all of us here too, Jim.
Campuzano's a really top-notch catching prospect if you're looking for a long-term person there.
Now that's
Hunter,
the kind of catcher I might take. That's intriguing.
Ronnie Mauricio, Mets top shortstop prospect.
19 years old, Jim. He's only 19. Now, hold on. Something that we got, and I'm glad you guys are bringing this up right now, but something we got to bring up is we're a keeper league, but every 3 years we restart. So, So by the time he's about ready to be called up, you might not, what's the guy's name?
Ronnie Mauricio.
Ronnie Mauricio, by the time he gets called up, that you might be in that third season. And that's it. You might only get him for 1 year. And so that's something to be mindful of. But in your case, because it looks like all the good prospects are taken, you might have no choice but to take like a very, very high upside guy, like in this 21-year-old, just so you can get, like I said, take advantage of the high upside and maybe get yourself a bona fide superstar in the future. But
for sure. I mean, there's some guys out there. India and Marsh are already, in the higher minors. India was in AA and Marsh AAA. So Helio Ramos, same way. Yeah, there are some guys out there that are on the cusp of the majors and definitely are options for you.
Hunter Green, high upside guy with the pitcher and a hitter. So,
and I'm excited to see what the Kyle Bodie and the whole Driveline team, Kyle Bodie's taken over in Cincinnati, is like their pitching development type deal. And I can't wait to see what they do with Hunter Green, who's coming back from Tommy John.
All right. So is adding these guys just like adding a regular player? Because
you go to players and then you go to status team, or you click on the little blue bars, and then you can go down to minors fantasy available, and that it'll show you which players are minors eligible and available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to drop anyone because you don't have any.
They go into your minor slots.
You haven't used any of your minor league slots. You just got to make sure you fix that. I think they're going to ask you, do you want him on your bench or you want him on your minor league slot, and just pick the minor league slot, and that you get a free player. You don't have to drop anyone.
Yeah. So who are you going up against this week?
Those guys in our leagues.
Let me see.
King Pooty.
Oh yeah.
No, it's the playoffs.
No, right. No, I was talking about this one right now. He's winning. He's beating Henry right now.
Period.
12-10.
Let's see if it holds on one more day.
Yeah, we'll see. I've had a lot of games that were lost in the last
day. It's always brutal.
Yeah, that's actually been kind of the theme of the season. Like I really thought I was sitting pretty, and I actually had a pretty good start to the season, but it has since kind of gone down the, I don't know.
I said, well, it's like I said at the beginning, is like your categories won versus categories lost differential is actually even, and there's teams that are ahead of you that have negative differentials. So you've definitely hit a little bit of bad luck. You've probably caught some of the hot teams on their better weeks and had your worst weeks against better weeks as well.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's fantasy sports for you.
Yeah,
but you're still in it, Jim. I mean, if you win, you pretty much sit. Well, you kind of control your destiny. It just depends on other teams and stuff. I mean, if you beat Henry, you basically, I think you knock him out of the playoffs, and then you put yourself in a good position to make the playoffs. So, I mean, should we? Let's take a look at that right now. What are Jim's chances of making the playoffs this year?
Yeah, let's see. Let me pull up standings.
You got it?
I don't have it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Oh, not what I wanted to do.
Really quick, Sean, I just want to make a comment.
Guys got it right
a couple
there?
of our guys from the newbie league. Yes.
Okay.
Sean, really quick, a couple of guys from the newbie league chimed in. Angel Morales is asking you, how do you beat Felipe? And the answer is you can't beat Felipe. And then Austin.
Of course you can beat Felipe. I'm about to do it in the playoffs.
I don't think so. Austin, who did beat me in the newbie league in that first week, he wanted to chime in and brag. He defeated me that first week. And the way I see it, it was my spring training. If the Yankee fans can use that as an excuse, I can use that as an excuse. It was my spring training. It doesn't count. So there. I just wanted to give a shout out to both Austin and Angel for tuning into this show today. Thanks, guys.
So right now, I would say there's how many 8 teams going to the playoffs, correct?
Yep.
Yes. So the locks are me, you, Jet, James, and the 5 and 5. 1, 2. I'm trying to think. It depends if the 5 and 6 teams lose. There's going to be a lot of weird ties, and I can't remember exactly what our tiebreaker rules were. It was like head to head and then points or something like that.
It might be
Because
yeah,
4 and 7. I'm trying to think 8. If that would put you at 4 and 7, you could probably theoretically still make it. I'm not sure how the other teams would have to be, but
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably like a mathematical possibility of it,
Yeah.
but not really.
At least I'm not Whelan, who started off 4 and 1 and has now lost 5 periods in a row. Oh, that would have me some sort of tilted if I was Matthew Whelan right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Whelan, I think he went on vacation and forgot about his team.
Yeah. That happens though.
Yeah.
Last year I had a pretty good lead in first place for a while, or at least you and I, Felipe, I think were in first place for most of the season, and then, at the end we both got taken over.
Well, you know what happened was we were like struggling, and then Erin took over. Like she couldn't lose anymore.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you're good against Erin, right?
Yeah, I don't know why I always beat Erin. I have never lost to Erin. Or I don't think I have, unless I just wasn't paying attention at some point this year. But I don't think I have. I know last year I was the only one who didn't lose to her. So I don't know why. I don't know why.
What are you showing here, Sean?
I was just pulling up my own team. I forgot that I was sharing. That's my other Fantrax. That's the points league, the daily points league. That's rough. I had such a good team, and then I had Kirby Yates just like you did, Jim, and
yeah,
you really like your top guys that you were relying on carrying you both, hitting and relief pitching just really let you down. Because like I said, I loved your draft. I loved how you built the team, and it didn't work out this year. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, it's a peculiar season.
Very.
I don't think anybody could have really planned well for this. If luck is ever a factor, it's this year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like when we were talking about Mike Harvey's team when we talked last week, was his team had really been struggling, and then we looked at his roster and he had 5 Cardinals on his roster that, guess what, the Cardinals didn't play for 3 weeks. So really tough to win when you don't have players actually playing, much less performing well.
Yeah, I thought my Cub heavy lineup might come in handy, but it still didn't.
So I gotta ask you, Jim, with the struggles that you've encountered this season, what's the number one thing you learned that you're gonna take with you for next season in this league, I should say?
What I really need to do is just get more used to Fantrax. As far as drafting strategy, I don't think I would change a whole lot. I usually do pretty well with my fantasy teams, but this was an off year. And I like that. My players are reasonably spread out as far as talent goes. Yeah, it was just bad luck. So I don't think I would change a whole lot other than just getting more used to knowing what I'm doing with Fantrax, hitting that learning curve.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a shortened season, so we don't have that luxury of it'll turn around the second half like it did for Aaron.
That's the thing is, if we're in a full season, I 100% think your team would balance out. JD Martinez and Cody Bellinger are way too good of hitters to have numbers like they are over a full season, but it's just over the span of a month, and it's just. It is how it is this year. It's terrible.
Yeah, but those are the guaranteed good seasons, and the reason I picked them. They're going to at least have a decent one.
I say you got JD Martinez, I believe, in like the 5th round, which I thought was like fantastic value for him. And I was kicking myself. I was like, how did I not already have him? But at that point, as me and Felipe have talked about relentlessly is when we had that draft, I was stuck at the end of 4 rounds without a pitcher. And so even though JD Martinez was there, I could not pick JD Martinez. I had to pick a pitcher because I had no pitching, and I still have no pitching. So it's biting me in the butt come playoff time.
Pitching, yeah.
Pitching wins championships, even fantasy championships.
Yeah. I've experimented with like making my first 5 picks pitchers in the past, and I mean it's not been terrible. Like I read somewhere that people were doing that and it was working out. I don't think it's the best strategy, but it's also not, it's not exactly a dead ass last strategy either.
Yeah, I do like the pitching heavy, especially in a points league. I know in our newbie league, it wasn't a points league, but I went Paddock, Scherzer, Bieber. Like I want to say I had like all of them, and that was just like kind of experimenting to see how I was going to do in a categories league, because there are so many good hitters, and in a regular season like this, or if there was a regular season not like this one, then you could stream, there's always hitters that are going to come up and do better than anyone expected that you'll be able to get off the waiver wire. Meanwhile, you don't find those difference-making pitchers on the waiver wire that often. The hitters you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a legitimate strategy.
Yeah.
And with that being said, Jim, thank you for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you having a little bit of time to your busy weekend schedule. I see you're waiting for you to give him more attention, so we'll let you go. Spend some time with your with Boston.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
Hey, good talking to you guys.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. I love having guests on, especially our own friends and neighbors, as I referenced in my post earlier this week. Love having our neighbors come join us on the podcast.
Yeah, man, that was fun. I like I said, I wanted to do it for all the teams, but all the owners, but I didn't realize that time was going to be so short this year. I was actually what you call it? I was expecting to have everybody be on this show and just talk to us about their fantasy baseball league, and next thing you know, we're starting our playoffs tomorrow. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it just kind of snuck up on us, but yeah, we have next year as well. We'll be back next. Hopefully, everybody else will get used to the website. And hey, for all the people in our fantasy baseball league at Fantrax, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We have the chat. We have the Facebook group. It's just all of us. Please ask questions if you need help with navigating through the system. Sean's really good at it. I'm always curious myself as to what people are trying to ask. Something I wanted to ask Jim as well, if there was something you could change in the league, what would it be? But it sounds like he's just trying to maneuver
Get his feet under him with it.
The website, yeah. Anyway, speaking of which, Austin from the newbie league is wanting to know, how do I go around with all the injury problems on my fantasy teams? And it just so happens that today we're going to be focusing on injuries. So it's very serendipitous that he's asking us about that.
How did he get a hold of my notes?
I don't know.
I've been hacked. I have been hacked.
Well, with that, so let's see what's the exact. How do I handle a fantasy baseball team like this with all the injury problems? Sean, what would you do?
Well, like you said, we were planning on talking about this, and maybe over the next season, we can kind of flesh it out into a bit more of a regular talking point. But it's like, in this season with COVID, there's a positive test with the A's today. So that like throws up in the air starting A's for your next weekly period. I know I'm not going to be starting any A's it's the first week of playoffs. So I can't take that risk. And then you have guys that have come back, gotten hurt, and then gone right back on the IL. And just in the last 5 days since we last spoke, I went and I looked at a lot of the injuries to major players that have gone on the IL. And then I've also gone back and looked at, some people that have been on the IL some of the year and are starting to come back. And that, guess what? Maybe somebody gave up on this person thinking they were going to miss the entire season, and you are able to capitalize and pick them up. Like Josh Donaldson, I believe Aaron Zook dropped Josh Donaldson, and I was scouring the web, and he could return sometime this week for Minnesota. And if he can fill out a corner infield slot for me, if as I go through the playoffs, that's valuable. And I believe being up to date on injuries and players coming back from injuries is something that can really give you an edge on the waiver wire as well as in trades.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, the thing about injured players are just low commodity, low priced players. You know, their stock is dropping. I mean, we're treating them like they're like literally like they're stock bonds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the mentality you have to take. I mean,
buy
someone on the
low,
waiver
sell
wire that was
high.
kind of pretty much, yeah. I mean, someone who was on the waiver wire because he got injured. That's what do you call it? A free shot for you to take on a guy who you know is good. I'll use mine as an example. I had Steven Strasburg and Noah Syndergaard on my other keeper team, and I was just trying to get rid of them as much as I can because I needed the roster space. And let's face it, they're not coming back next year. Not after. I mean, the chance for Thor to come back the way he was before for next season are just not very promising. And Steven Strasburg, I think we all know that he's been on a ticking time bomb for a while now. So I just threw any trade out there and see who would take, and then it just so happens that I made an offer for Carlos Carrasco and Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, as Sean would know, is someone I have clamored for and I've been putting for a long time now. And luckily for me, Bichette got injured, and the owner was like, "Yeah, I'll take that trade. I'll take the 2 pitchers for Bo Bichette." And so in that respect, that's one way where you can use the injuries to your advantage and get the players that you really want at a lower price. So that's one thing. For everything else, I mean, make sure you use your injured league slots. Those are very key. Some leagues have more than others. I know in our newbie league we have 3, right? I think we have 3 in our newbie league. So utilize them, maneuver around them, and pick up healthy bodies. I mean, that's burn and churn, man. Just one goes down, bring somebody else. Do the Ulysses S. Grant method of winning this war here. Just if 10,000 die, just bring 10,000 more from the Union. Screw it. At least that's what I was.
That general didn't work for you. I'll get a new one. Throw it out and get a new one.
Oh, that's Abe Lincoln's theory right there too.
Manuel is asking in the comments if we did mention the A's COVID test. We did mention it briefly. I have several A's. I have Mark Canha and Robbie Grossman in the Baseball Life League. Guys that, solid batting averages so far this year, walk a lot. They really buoy my walk to strikeout ratio, which is one of our stats. And now I'm going to have to go into this week without them. Granted, I feel perfectly fine with the backups I have, guys like Franmil Reyes and Brian Reynolds. But at the same time, I wouldn't be starting those guys if I had Grossman and Canha available based on how they've been playing. But they have one positive test today. They're off tomorrow, and then they are scheduled Tuesday through Sunday. If they go based on how the Mets handled it, which seemed to be like a best-case scenario, they still missed, about 4 days. And I don't know how they're going to make that up, and I'm not willing to risk if they're going to make it up or how many games they're actually going to miss this week. So if you have the space, I would not start those guys.
Yeah, totally. I'm thinking about doing that myself in my other league as well, as I do have a lot of third basemen, thankfully. I only have Matt Chapman, who's been tremendous for me this year, but if he's hurt, then it's not worth it.
Speaking about the A's, and then you mentioned Chapman, this was part of, from my injury little newsletter, the Who's Gone. Marcus Semien played game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday, but was scratched before the second game and actually went to go get an MRI. So this might be a serious injury, going to the IL. We don't know yet. It was apparently left side soreness. And Matt Chapman played his first career game at shortstop.
Yes.
Which could be an interesting development moving forward if Marcus Semien does miss time. How much time does Matt Chapman play at shortstop? And does he get shortstop eligibility? Because if he gets shortstop eligibility, that means he'll probably carry it into next year as well. And he becomes a very, very valuable shortstop at an already deep position. Third base and shortstop are already very deep this year, and he just makes it even deeper.
Now, that's going to be interesting because a lot of leagues, I know in our leagues, I made it to the point that they have to play 20 games at each position to qualify for next year, right? So Matt Chapman would need to start playing 20 games at shortstop to qualify for next season. It's a shortened season, though. Are these websites going to prorate them for next year, or are they just going to take the actual count of games?
That will be interesting to see if they do change that.
I hope they don't, but I could see them going that route, which is really going to mess my research up for next season. But you know, as Austin was telling us, he has whatever, or on his roster in the newbie league, he's 6 guys injured. But I'll just have to adapt for next year. You'll have to adapt. It's all about adaptability and blending in with new surroundings and the environment, all that, blah, 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 Darwinism in fantasy baseball. But no, you just got to figure out if they're coming back anytime soon. If they're out for a long period of time, I think it's time for, I mean, Sean, you chime in and tell me if you agree with this or not. But if they're out for like 2 or 3 weeks, at this point of the season, I think you got to figure that you might have to just dump these guys sometimes, right?
Yeah, because now a 2 to 3 week injury, you're lucky. I mean, for us, our last week ends the 20th of September, so that's 3 weeks away. The season runs through the very end of September, but we're having it, just like in a regular fantasy season. We're going to end a little bit before the actual regular season. So, yeah, 2-3 weeks. Like guys, I think that's why so many people felt comfortable dropping Justin Verlander when his news went out. And Bo Bichette, I almost dropped Bo Bichette in another league because they said that he might not come back until the 3rd week of September. But now they're saying he's already working out and he might be activated, sometime in the next 10 days, which that means I get him for a week and a half maybe. But if I had dropped him, then I wouldn't have had him for that week and a half.
So, yeah, just use your best judgment. Look at the injury reports. And the newbie league, I think the newbie league might go all the way through September. I'm not too 100% sure on that one. But, yeah, just use your best judgment as you can. Basically, I think we mentioned this before, Sean. Basically, in football season, this is the mentality we have right now in baseball is similar to fantasy football. Is if a guy is hurt for more than a week or so, you might have to consider dropping them because the stakes are higher and the season is not that long to make up for those lost games. So
yeah, and I mean, just looking at some of the big names that have gone on the IL. Some of the big names that have gone on the IL over the last week. You have Aaron Judge and Gleyber Torres for the Yankees. Judge sounds like he's going to miss at least 20 days. They said he's going to be on it twice as long as he did last time, and he was on the IL for 11 days last time. So do the math, I guess. Ryan Yarborough, who, not a big strikeout guy, but has always been very good ratio pitcher. He went on the IL. Walker Buehler, 10-day IL with a blister. Nate Eovaldi to the IL. Keona Kella, who is, picking up the save here and there for Pittsburgh and possibly a trade target to go to another team. He got the dreaded forearm tightness diagnosis, so we'll see what that means, especially for a team like Pittsburgh, who Keona Kella was obviously their most valuable trade candidate. And with the Major League deadline coming on tomorrow, probably not going to be able to move him. Starlin Castro, I thought this was interesting. He was officially moved to the 45-day IL. He broke his hand or thumb or something like that. So I feel like that opens up somewhat good playing time or standard playing time for not only Asdrubal Cabrera, but Carter Kieboom, who I believe was optioned to the alternate site. But with that change, he might be coming back up because or if it's not Carter Kieboom, Luis Garcia, the rookie that they've had playing, he's had a nice little hot start to his career. So those are some of the guys that are leaving us. Some guys that have not gone on the IL yet, but have dealt with some injuries. We mentioned Marcus Semien, and then your very own Yohan Moncada was pulled out of the game in the 9th inning yesterday after a slide. Apparently he's been dealing with leg soreness, hamstring issue most of the season, but it was bad enough that he was at second base after sliding in and had to be pulled from the game. So that's always something you have to keep an eye on with players is those nagging hamstrings. They never seem to go away unless you sit them for 6 to 8 weeks, which in this season you can't. They can't do it.
Yeah. And he's not been the same. It was kind of his coming out party. And this year it's just been a whole different ballgame for him. He's not been the same. Austin has more questions. I think you saw it already. Not questions, but he just wanted to give the list of the injured players. David Dahl, who I think it's time to drop that guy. I mean, would you? I mean, let's do that for him right now. I mean, he's been listening.
He was
I like this kid.
when I
He's
was
very
going through
curious.
all of the players via ESPN's injury report. They did say Rockies manager David Dahl is supposed to be coming back within the week. So
Really?
maybe hold on to him, maybe you don't. It's a close one either way.
He's always hurt though. Like
Yeah, he is always hurt. He's always hurt. So
he has everything going for him, right? I mean, he's on a prime team. He looks like they're giving him every opportunity to succeed over there, despite the fact that they're pretty deep in outfield at times. And he just gets injured all the time, and that's not even like fluky injuries. It's like these long-term things or whatever, and it really
it's an oblique. His back.
That's why I'm kind of losing
I
patience
mean,
with him. Oh, it's always something. Nick Senzel, do you have hope for him still or no?
They still haven't given an update on him at all. I think he was the one when the Reds had their outbreak, but it was only the one or two people, like one player and one coach, like it was for the Mets. I think Senzel was the one who tested positive, and they have not given any sort of update on him in over 10 days. So if you're in a redraft league, he's dropped material. Just, I mean, cut bait, find somebody else.
These are all guys in the newbie league, so it's just like you said, it's a redraft league. So Dylan Moore from the Mariners, right?
Yeah, Dylan Moore. He was off to a little hot start.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him.
No, most of those Mariners hitters, aside from like J.P. Crawford, Kyle Lewis, I could really care less about.
Ozzie Albies, I feel like you gotta. What's his deal? But I feel like you gotta keep him around.
I haven't heard anything on Albies. I didn't see an update on him. And then he also mentions Mitch Garver and AJ Puck.
What was AJ Puke?
He's starting a throwing program. Yeah, he's going to pitch this year, but it's not going to be in the rotation.
Yeah, you might want to drop. I feel it's AJ Puke, not AJ Puck, but I don't know. Maybe it's both. Yeah. I've been waiting on AJ. I've been waiting on AJ Puke for a long time now. It's like, is he even considered a highly touted prospect at this point? And Mitch Garver, I think you mentioned it before that he's just not the approach that he had last year has kind of disappeared on him this year, as he's not hitting the ball with authority as much as he was like last season. And
the report on Ozzie Albies from just a couple days ago is that he is unlikely to rejoin the team before the end of its current road trip, which lasts through Wednesday, according to Mark Bowman at MLB.com.
I think a talent like Albies, I think you can just wait around, but make sure you have a viable replacement option. Yeah. Replacement, thank you. So, but yeah, I think Albies is too good to drop at this point, and that takes us to. I mean, anybody else you want to talk about in terms of injuries?
Well, it's we talk about the people that are definitely leaving us. Going on the IL. The judges, the Buellers that I didn't forgot to mention them, but Yordan Alvarez officially had his double knee surgery. Somewhere Yoenis Cespedes is doing the whole Spider-Man thing. Like, you had double leg surgeries? I had double leg surgeries.
Just a coincidence here, Sean. That's the coincidence. For those who can't see, I am holding my Spider-Man mug, which is running out of coffee. But
oh, no. But just as we have players that are leaving us, we have players that are about to return, especially in a short season. Another owner might have given up on these people. Like I mentioned, the Donaldson situation for me. Hunter Harvey, if you need saves, Hunter Harvey is about to be activated. And Brandon Hyde came out and said that he's going to get saves, but he's just probably not going to pitch back-to-back days. He basically said he's going to be the closer, but he's not going to be the closer. So if you need saves, Hunter Harvey had the electric stuff last year and picked up a lot of saves down the stretch for Baltimore and really stabilized their bullpen. So Hunter Harvey is a guy that's probably available in your leagues because he's been hurt all year, and he might help you out down the stretch. If you need starting pitchers, we've been talking all season about not having starting pitchers. Carlos Rodon
I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry about that. I have to. Two players for the Orioles. Tanner Scott, is he still healthy?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay,
I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
So are you telling me? Okay, I thought I saw something. Okay, are you telling me I should just drop Cole Sulzer at this point?
Yes.
Yes. All right. I was really hoping to get my points, my saves points this week, but I guess not. Anyway, go on.
Okay. If you need starting pitching, Carlos Rodon is scheduled to pitch a simulated game today and get his pitch count up to around 60 or 70, which would probably put him starting sometime next week. But the two that you should really be interested in is for Miami. They're finally starting to get their players back from their original COVID, especially the starting pitchers, who not only did they have to recover from having COVID, but then they once again had to build up their arms after taking 2.5 weeks off. Sandy Alcantara is starting today, and Caleb Smith is slated to start one of the 3 games I believe they're playing against the Blue Jays early this week. So there's some starting options for him. Nick Madrigal just returned from his injury. It was like the balls that David Fletcher has hit that are like 4 feet above the strike zone. He hit one, and it was like the softest line drive I've ever seen, but the infield was playing in, so he picked up an RBI in his first game back. Another relief option, Nick Anderson, threw a bullpen session yesterday and is expected to throw one more before being activated. With that Rays bullpen in complete flux, they've just been devastated by injuries. But because they're the Rays, they just throw whoever it is in there, and they do great. Like if you saw their line from yesterday, Josh Fleming, a guy that I saw pitch multiple times in Montgomery, didn't think he was anything special. He has like a 1.7 ERA through 2 starts. And then the next 4 relievers, if you knew their first names, props to you. I think I knew 2 of them, and I was more than most people. That's most of the injury updates. Alex Bregman is back to working out and running at the alternate site, so he should be back if you've been waiting on him. Chris Bryant's the same way. He's progressing from his wrist injury. He worked out at Wrigley, as well as taking 5 to 10 at-bats at the alternate site over the last few days. So some stars coming back, some relief help on the way, and some starting pitching help already here.
Just in. You ready?
Go for it.
The Red Sox send first baseman Mitch Moreland to the Padres for outfielder Jason Rosario and third baseman Hudson Potts.
To the who? The Blue Jays?
The Padres.
Padres. Jason Rosario is a interesting dynasty candidate. Really good. What the hell do the Padres need a first baseman for?
I don't know. Or to DH sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it.
Okay. But Epler. Epler and DePoto are like long lost twins. They just make the deals, I feel like, just to make them. But speaking of trades involving the Padres, we talked about Rosenthal and Stalmont last week, and here we are now this week, and Rosenthal's been traded. And now Felipe has the heir apparent to saves in Kansas City. How excited are you about that?
I have both, actually.
Oh, you do have both. Okay.
In all my leagues, man. I don't know what to make of it with the Rosenthal, because I still believe in Rosenthal. Like, I'm pulling up the Padres roster research for everybody to see here. But the way I see it, at this point of the season, I think Rosenthal is still the Padres' best option to close out games. And I like Emilio Pagan, and then Drew Pomeranz is back. But I when it's all said and done, I feel like Pomeranz is going to be utilized as a late inning relief pitcher because he's just so damn good. And then Emilio Pagan will probably be relegated to 6th, 7th inning duties.
We got another bomb from Passan. Breaking news. I don't want to interrupt you. Designated Jose Martinez has been traded back into the National League Central to the Chicago Cubs. 2 players to be named later heading back to Tampa Bay.
Wow. I did not expect the Cubs to do that kind of move, but all right. I like it. Wow, you just threw me off a loop.
Yeah, I'm telling you, all these trades are coming in fast and hard right now.
Fast and furious. 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow. I mean, that's interesting because, Jose Martinez has to be like their DH at this point. But the Cubs, I mean, they've been waiting all their life for the DH to come, and now that the DH is here, it's like I feel like now they're just trying to make up for lost time and get options on that team because for a long time oh, if the DH was around, we could put Kyle Schwarber at DH or Ian Happ at DH and give him regular at bats, or this guy or that guy. So this should be interesting.
None of this makes sense. What is baseball in 2020?
Yeah. If H.G. Wells, no, that's a horrible example of H.G. Wells, because I think that book was made when there was no baseball. But yeah, if you get a person from 1976, time travel ahead to 2020, the National League has a designated hitter, I think they freak out. But anyway, getting back to the Padres, I still feel Rosenthal is the best option. He's having too good of a year not to be put in that situation. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and assume that the Padres see what I see, and that Rosenthal has to be your ninth inning guy, and everybody else has to be relegated down to late inning.
I will say this is Drew Pomeranz did just return from the IL.
Apparently so.
And he was picking up the saves right before he left.
That's because the Padres didn't have anybody else to do it.
So it'll be interesting to see how they do a timeshare between because it's definitely, I think, going to be between Pomeranz and Rosenthal. Like you said, Rosenthal's having too good of a year. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, but that's why I'm keeping faith that Rosenthal has to be the guy. Pomeranz is left-handed, you know.
Yeah,
I know Matt Stram is pretty damn good too. I love the Padres both. I love the Padres. I don't get me wrong, but in this situation, I think Pomeranz is just best suited as a left-handed pitcher to be the high leverage guy, regardless of inning.
The Andrew Miller role.
Yeah, the Andrew Miller role. Yeah. So that takes care of the Padres. Now we move on to the Royals because they don't have a closer anymore, and I'm waiting for this to load up, and we can talk about the player that the Royals got back. But I just wanted to look at their situation in the bullpen because now it gets interesting, and it's total basis podcast serendipity. We talked about what's the guy's name? Josh Stallman, right?
Yes.
Being the heir apparent, and look at that! Oh, it's a four-headed monster. According to
I think it's going to be Stallman and Barlow. Those are going to be the two. They've been performed the best. They're the youngest. They have the most upside.
Yeah. So if you don't have Josh Stallman and you're in my league, unfortunately, sorry to do that to you, but I have to do what's best for my business. But Scott Barlow is a viable option, I believe. We talked about Josh Stallman last week. He just has that stuff, and he has a look of being that closer, right?
Yeah.
The ninth inning guy. He throws 100 miles an hour. He has a nasty curveball. The one thing I don't like is that he gets hit hard, very hard. But the way I see it, he throw hard, you get hit hard. I don't know. Yeah. But they have options. They have Greg Holland, who's a veteran. Jesse Hahn, who's still around, to my surprise. But this is the guy to get. And if not him, then Scott Barlow would be the next man up for the Royals if you're desperate for saves.
And remember, we told you this last week.
I'm telling you guys, listen, if you're in our baseball league, don't be mad at us for dominating. Oh, well, of course they're dominating. They're the commissioners. Oh, of course they're dominating because they set the rules up. Oh, of course they're dominating because, no, we tell you what we're going to do, and you guys can't stop us.
I mean, Felipe literally during the podcast last week
went and picked up.
Oh, okay. It was right after. It was right at the buzzer. He went and picked up Josh Stallman. I was very hurt and offended by that.
Hey, I gave you guys a 5-minute window to pick up Josh Stallman, and nobody did. Like, well, if no one's gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. You know, and it was when you and I were talking afterwards, after the show was done. That's when I decided, well, 5 minutes has gone by. I'm going to pick them up. But we tell you who we like and who we might pick up. That's on you if you don't do it. We gave you guys a full week in advance that this was going to happen, and it happened. And now look at it. Josh Stallman is in the precipice of getting a bunch of saves to end the year, and I have him on all my teams. So, Edward Olivares, right?
Yes, Edward Olivares is the other athletic speed power combo outfielder going to Kansas City from San Diego for a relief pitcher. Tell me if you've heard this story before, because it happened right at the very beginning of the season when San Diego traded Franchy Cordero to Kansas City for Tim Hill. So I feel like we're just making the same trade over again, except with slightly better players. And Edward Olivares is a really interesting pick. He actually played I'll tell you exactly. He played in 13 games towards the beginning of the season. And the best way I've likened him is kind of to a Starling Marte. He's got great speed. He's got a compact swing. It's just the hit tool. He has always been like a 270 hitter, And then in Double A last year, which is usually the hardest jump for a hitter to make from High A to Double A pitching, he had his best offensive year, posting an 801 OPS, 283 average, 453 slugging. And of course, as we talk about in fantasy, people lose their minds for stolen bases. He stole 35 bags in 127 games. He hit 18 home runs, and he increased his contact across the board. And now going to Kansas City, the only person I could really think that's blocking him is Alex Gordon, which it might finally just be time to put him to pasture and Old Yeller him if we have to. But Olivares is a guy who down the stretch, you get some stolen bases, you get some home runs. He's an interesting prospect. He just has to make the contact because he did strike. We saw it. His first taste against Major League pitching, Felipe showing it on the screen right now, he had a strikeout rate over 35%. But his batted ball data actually wasn't terrible. Actually, it was. The last two games must have really brought it down. But he's an interesting player. He's not young he's 24 years old, but the development for him was slower. And now that he's finally hit the Double A level, we might see more of a development as he, moves up the ranks.
I mean, this is the reason you get him. I mean, 35 stolen bases in Double A last year.
Yeah.
21 in Single A the year before. We went up to his scouting report stuff, and he's not very doesn't have a lot of upside according to Fangraphs. He's more speed and defense kind of guy, as you can see from his high numbers here. There is some potential with the power and the hit tool, but still,
if the hit tool becomes a 50, he is a legitimate major league starter. I'm just because I've had this discussion on Twitter and Facebook and Inside of Baseball Life everywhere, is that when we look at a hit tool, it's like everyone sees like Ahmed Rosario had a 60 grade hit tool according to Fangraphs. And it's like they see the electric hands or the electric bat, the quick hands, but they don't see pitch. Like I feel like pitch recognition isn't as vital to that calculation as it should be. And I feel like that's something Edward Olivares is really going to have to learn and develop is, pitch recognition, swinging at good pitches and taking the bad pitches. Because you can have the quickest hands, the most electric bat, but if you're swinging at every slider that breaks out of the zone, righty on righty, you're not going to last in the major leagues. You're just not.
Yeah, and I think the reason that his strikeout numbers don't look as bad in Double A is because he was 23 years old playing in Double A. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, and he's never been, you look at his strikeout numbers, he's never been somebody that strikes out a whole lot, but he's never walked a whole lot either. Granted, that 3% jump between High A and Double A is encouraging. That was the main reason I went and picked him up in my giant 30-team Dynasty League. Even though it's a points league, and I believe his plate discipline really worries me in a points league, the upside there is, I still think, credible enough to roster in, deep dynasty leagues where, you had each team has like 10 or 12 prospects. I know that's not many leagues, but there are some like that.
All righty. So intriguing prospect. I might just go pick him up 5 minutes after the show's over. No, But speaking of an intriguing 24-year-old prospect, we move on to the next trade, which was the Oakland Athletics from earlier this week.
I really like that segue, Felipe. Another 24-year-old prospect with a cup of coffee at the majors.
I had to jump on it before it was too late. The timing is everything, just like in comedy. Angels and A's made a trade earlier, and the only reason I'm bringing this up, even though it's like already old news, is because we had a very heated discussion in a private chat between some of the admins and myself, and I feel like people are down on what's this guy's name, Franklin Barreto, a little bit. But first guy we're going to talk about is Tommy La Stella. He's now with the Oakland Athletics, who we just mentioned. He's already slated to bat second behind Marcus Semien in a perfect world, although, as you can see right here, Semien is injured. So La Stella probably still stuck at the number 2 spot. But how'd you like that trade there, Sean?
I like Tommy La Stella. I think he's a very good, professional hitter. I kind of see him have the Daniel Murphy career arc right now of, someone who he never had as high of an average in his younger years like Murphy did, but he developed that power stroke last year, and he's always been someone that makes a lot of contact. What La Stella focused on last year was, doing damage on. He learned pitches that he could not only make contact with, but do damage with, and started pulling the ball more. And then he had the freak, foul ball off the knee and missed the last 2 months. I'm not sure how well I like him hitting in a ballpark like the Coliseum. He's not someone who hits the ball extremely hard. He does, barrel it up slightly better than average. It's a good lineup if he's going to be between, the Chapmans and the Olsons, Piscotty in that range, Simeon. It's just a very deep lineup, so it is a good lineup for him. He should have, ample RBI opportunities. I don't expect a lot of power from him hitting in that ballpark, but he still has that contact ability to fall back on.
I was going to mention something. La Stella, the one thing that La Stella has going is that Oakland, you know how Oakland, they like their players, and he kind of fits that mold.
He's very much an Oakland hitter, I feel like.
Yeah, so he fits it right well in. It's just you still need to produce. You still need the results. So hopefully for his sake, he's kind of been breaking out. No pun intended with the broken kneecap, but he broke out late last year. But he's 31 years old. I believe he's going to be a free agent next year.
Yeah, free agent at the end of the year.
So this could be a rental player. I know that Austin's already mentioning the Angels traded the right guy to the right team, but got the wrong player. The Angels need pitching, not another utility infielder. But let's get into it. I mean, the way I see it, if La Stella had a trade market as much as Angel fans think they would have gotten that guy, but they didn't. Instead, they get this guy named Franklin Barreto, who I've been kind of keeping an eye on for a long time now. And I think, let me see, our good guy friend Manuel Hernandez mentioned that Barreto was the one who got the COVID-19, and he's on the COVID-19 protocol. But
I did hear that he was only put on the COVID-19 list because he had to go from one team to the other, and so he was going through the new team's intake. It is very positive, it's completely possible that he could have tested positive during that intake, but they haven't released anything to that effect yet.
Okay.
Just because he's on the COVID IL doesn't mean he is the one that tested positive. That was news from yesterday that they put him on it because he had to go through a new team's intake process.
All right. Well, with that, that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. I was really worried for us for a bit there. Hopefully, this is just a procedural thing and nothing too serious. But Angels are also looking to trade Andrelton Simmons as well. So, yeah, maybe Franklin Barreto can come in and take over for the Angels in that regard. But like I said, this is a guy I've been keeping tabs on for a long time now. As you can see, much better figures and numbers than Edward Olivares, who also comes with a high upside. Same age. This is what people are complaining about. 0 options in the minors right now at the moment. And I'm at this point, I'm like thinking, like, who cares? He's still 24 years old. He still has high upside. You basically got rid of a 31-year-old with a broken knee, coming back from a very horrid injury, and getting back a Franklin Barreto type player who has been on the precipice of getting that shot in the majors. Unfortunately for him, he was playing on the wrong team because the Oakland Athletics are in win now mode and the Angels are not. So, is this a good assessment, Sean? What's your take on this?
Franklin Barreto was one of the key pieces in that Josh Donaldson trade. And so this basically closes the book on the Josh Donaldson from A's to the Blue Jays. And Barreto has, played at least 23 games since 2017. And his strikeout percentage in those 3 seasons, 43% in 2017, 38.5% in 2018, and 39.7% in 2019. I just think he's one of those guys that the scouts missed. I think they just missed on him. I think he's one of those, he had such, if he fills out his frame, if he does this, if he does that, he's going to be a real good player. And he never did that. And he had the frame to be a solid middle infielder. And I don't see it. This trade didn't make sense to me. I thought that if the Angels could trade La Stella, they could have gotten somebody better than Franklin Barreto. Because at this point, I don't even think it's an options thing, because at this point, he's going to have to play. And if he doesn't play, if he doesn't perform, then I don't see what sending him to AAA is going to do. He's basically shown what he is at AAA. He does very well in AAA, but it's when he comes up to the majors, he doesn't hit. So I think he's just one of those former top prospect quad A players that's going to bounce around, and maybe he carves out a utility role somewhere in the future, but I don't think he's going to be any sort of an impact player.
I still have hope for him. I know the zero options is very damning, and if you're the Angels, you're not going to win anyway, so you might as well put him in AAA or the whatever they have going now, the secondary location.
That's the thing; they can't send him to the alternate site. You have to be optioned to the alternate site.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
But at any rate, right? You bid your time. If you're gonna trade Andrelton Simmons, you trade him. And again, the Angels fans like, oh, they should have done this. But if there was a trade market for La Stella, they would have done it. I don't think that.
You see what is
easy
with the Mitch Moreland trade we just saw.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Mitch Moreland and Tommy La Stella. Mitch Moreland obviously has the higher power upside, but is more of a platoon risk.
Yeah.
I don't see there much of a difference in total skill between La Stella and Moreland. And the Red Sox and Chaim Bloom, credit to him, got way more value than the Angels just got for La Stella.
No, I mean that's fair, but I'm just saying if La Stella was this guy that everybody wanted, I'm pretty sure the Angels would have gotten the same deal. I don't think he's anything special. I mean, yeah, he's shown in one half of a season that he could the potential that he displayed when he was a Braves prospect back in 2013. But you just said so yourself. In Oakland, he's probably going to struggle and not post the same numbers. You know who would have done well in Oakland and display that same power? Mitch Moreland.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on, you guys. La Stella is. I love the skill set that he brings, but in terms of productivity and the raw athleticism, there is none. Like it's pitch recognition. And
he's an ability over it's ability over skill play set.
No, it's the opposite. Skill over ability. Matt Bush and I, we did this thing. Okay, skill and athleticism, and we figured that a guy like Jacoby Jones is on the athletic part of the spectrum, and a guy like La Stella would be on the skill spectrum. And you want those guys who can do both.
Okay.
Like a Mike Trout.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had to. Because we're going to use that a lot. So it's a skill versus athleticism. And, yeah, he has a skill, but there's really no upside to La Stella anymore. He's 31 years old coming back from a freaky injury. And God bless him. He's doing his part to, be relevant. But if everybody saw La Stella the same way that every Angels fan sees him, they would have made that deal. But I honestly think there was no market for La Stella. And this is the result.
I think, if anything, this was what's the Angels GM's name?
Is that Billy Epler?
Bill Epler, yeah. GM names are confusing me right now. This is a guy, La Stella posted an 832 OPS last year, and so far this year was posting an 822 OPS. The numbers were slightly different. His batting average was lower, on-base percentage higher. I feel like this was a move he made because they're starting to feel the heat with the deadline tomorrow. He said, if I don't get rid of him now, somebody might not come calling later. And I feel like he just took what was given to him, which maybe Barreto works out. There is still upside there. I don't think Barreto has enough, actual ability to hit and to tap in to his, great tools.
Yeah, it's possible, or he could become the next Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson kind of did the same. We just talked about Tim Anderson, and for a long time, I was a very non-believer of Tim Anderson because he strikes out too much and he doesn't walk enough, and it's pretty much the same with Barreto. He strikes out too much, doesn't walk enough. Although with Barreto, he got 10% in AAA as a 23-year-old. I just think it's a thing with Barreto. I think we still gotta see him in regular at-bats, and I don't think he was getting that in Oakland. There's no way. 75 plate appearances here, 58 over here, 10 this season.
Especially with how, they wanted him to do something. He only got 10 plate appearances. You have his page pulled up right now. But they got rid of Profar. It seemed like they were trying to clear a spot for him, but it's never been there. Oh, my God, look at those walk rates in 2018 and 2019. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and that's major league level. But, again, that's in part-time duty. I mean, I know because I've been waiting on Barreto too.
It's just it looks like he melts.
Keep an eye on him.
It just looks like he melts when he gets to the major leagues.
But he also doesn't get a lot of playing time, is what I'm saying. Like, you think, oh well, he's brought up because he's gonna get a lot of playing time, and like, no, play this today, skip tomorrow, skip the next day, skip the next day. Okay, we'll start this day, and then they're like, okay, show us what you got, kid. Like, thanks. I'm a 3-day rust here, but I have
which speaking of, after like 2+ years of the Astros seemingly not doing everything in their power not to play him, have you been seeing the numbers that Kyle Tucker has been putting up? He is single-handedly carrying not only my fantasy team in the Baseball Life League, but he is carrying that Astros lineup. Over a span of not even 10 days, he's raised his average almost 40 points, raised his slugging to 588, and had 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, 15, 18 RBIs in the last 9 games. He's hit 3 triples in that time, or actually 5 triples in that time span, and 3 home runs. And he's still swiping bases. I never understood this, because when he did get playing time in the end of 2018 and the end of 2019, it was just like you said. You're going to play one game, and then we're going to sit you for 6, and then we're going to bring you back out. And this is a guy who's one of the top hitting prospects in baseball, and is honestly making me contemplate that he might be one of my keepers going into next year.
Well, you got to be careful, man, because you only keep 3, but I'll let you do it. But this is the difference between a Tucker and a Barreto. Tucker comes with a lot more upside. This is like the difference between a red Washington delicious apple versus a Honeycrisp apple, right? It's a 50-cent difference per pound. As you can tell, I go a lot do the grocery shopping around here. But this is, I mean, Barreto, I like him as a prospect. He ain't no Kyle Tucker, and you're seeing the difference between Kyle Tucker and Barreto, because in a short amount of time in 2019 and only 72 plate appearances, he did produce some for you. But this is what I'm talking about. You give a guy like a Kyle Tucker regular at bats, regular plate appearances, this is the results you get. They've been winning for a long time.
This is the crazy thing with the Astros is they weren't content. They weren't planning on giving Tucker consistent at bats. It wasn't until Yordan Alvarez never came back, and now he's gone. It wasn't until Michael Brantley got injured. It wasn't until Bregman started missing time. And guess what? They give a former top 10 prospect playing time, and he's performing. Shocker. I know.
Yeah, and it's a thing with the Oakland Athletics is they have so many the veterans, they have so much depth that there really isn't room to give Barreto regular appearances. There's a reason why those options ran out quickly. It's like it's options to get just to use up options, it seemed like over there. But the Astros, they had Tucker blocked at several positions in the outfield. You just mentioned it. Josh Reddick, for God's sake, gets more playing time than Kyle Tucker for whatever reason, even though Reddick is just there because of his arm. But no, I'm glad that sometimes that's all it takes. You know, the Wally Pipp syndrome. Yep. Some guys go down, next man up, and this guy's finally getting his due diligence and his the playing time that he deserves because, yeah, like you said, he's a top 10 prospect. So last guy on the list here, Sean, who was it? Tommy Milone, and I think this is where we're going to end it today. Yeah. Tommy Milone got traded to the Braves. I have Milone in a couple of my teams. Yeah. Is he going to be worth keeping for this last stretch of the season here? Possibly, yes. I believe we talked about him two weeks ago when we talked about a lot of the starting pitching, and definitely an improvement in ballparks. He doesn't have to pitch in Camden, which is a plus. But he is what he is at this point. One of my Braves buddies, Daniel Samak, shout out to him. He posted on Twitter. He's like, "Who is Tommy Milone and why did we trade for him? And tell me who he is." And I basically said, well, he's a solid starter that somehow gets by throwing 86 mile per hour fastballs. He has he has the great changeup, and he has a plus slider, but it's just you looked at his last start. I want to say he looked okay, and then he just gave up like 3 home runs. But it's like all of the home runs were on the fastball. It just let me pull it up so I'm not talking out of my ass. And really quick, while you pull that up, Roster Resource has Tommy Milone starting on Monday, so that answers our question. So okay, yeah, he was definitely going to be starting because I mean the Braves have no clue what their rotation is outside of Max Fried.
Robbie Erlin, Josh Tomlin. Robbie Erlin wasn't even on their team 2 weeks ago. Josh Tomlin was in their bullpen. Husker Yanoa was in the minors. Ian Anderson was in the minors.
I don't know him, actually.
Yeah, and Tommy Malone in his last outing against Tampa, he went 5 1/3, gave up 2 home runs, 4 runs total, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts. The outing before that, he went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 home runs. It just seems when he gives up runs, it's always on the long ball because he has such a small margin of error when you throw 86-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Oh, my God. Look at this list of pitchers that are on the secondary site for the Braves. Yep. Kyle Wright, Touki Toussaint, Bryce Wilson,
They keep throwing them against the wall, and they're not sticking. Bryce Wilson, Touki, Newcomb. It's the same story over and over with them.
And look at the veterans they got: Julius Chassin and Mike Foltynewicz.
Yeah, he got DFA'd after like his first start in the year, and nobody picked him up. So
Felix Hernandez is also in there as well.
He opted out.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's you know what it is, Sean. It's the theme to the season. It's the whole what we talked about, this the Civil Wars, the North strategy to the Civil War. 10,000 people died, bring in 20,000. Fuck it, we have all these numbers, and I feel like the Braves are doing that. It's like outside of Max Fried, they're just you try something. Robbie Erlin, former top prospect of the Padres, you do something. Ian Anderson, you're our last of our 3 major prospects. Please make it work.
He looked good. He did look good in that first outing against the Yankees. Yep. He looked a lot like Chris Paddock to me. Fastball changeup really kind of kept him off balance. Really looking for that third pitch to really stick, though. Maybe I out of him, Kyle Wright, and who's the other one? Bryce Wilson. Anderson was the one I liked the most. I'm not crazy high on any of them, but Anderson I think did have the best upside because he had the best command.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. But the Braves, for a while, they had really good pitching prospects, and it seems like I just noticed that they used them all up, and Ian Anderson might be the last of the bunch here.
Yeah.
So hopefully it works out. Tommy Malone will be starting on Monday, possibly 2 starts there. So keep an eye on him.
Let me see who his starts are against. I just had him pulled up, and I didn't even look.
All right. I was gonna pull up the Tommy Malone pitch.
So he's got a Toronto start and then actually, no, that's still his Baltimore. They haven't changed it on Fantrax yet.
Yeah, it's up to the minute it is, huh?
Yeah. It's MLB.
But at any rate, it looks like he will be starting regardless. So I'm going to check the CBS site just to make sure that
Atlanta's playing Boston tomorrow, so that's the game he's scheduled to start.
He had a hell of a game against the Red Sox earlier this season. I thought he did a fantastic job, and that was back when we thought that Boston's offense was still kind of viable, even without Mookie Betts. But
I don't think there's anything viable on that team.
No, they got some pieces. I mean, you got still guys, Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, and Mitch Moreland, who apparently is a guy worth giving away 2 prospects for.
Yeah. A top 10 prospect in one of the most loaded farm systems in baseball. That's shocking to me. I think Rosario was like the number 8 or right at number 10 for them. So, but they have outfield depth in spades. Taylor Trammell, Will Myers, Trent Grisham, guys that are already at the major league level. So I understand they weren't going to be able to put all these guys on the 40-man roster, but that was a hell of a haul by Chaim Bloom in Boston for sure.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. I think we covered everything. I know this guy named Vlad wanted to talk about the Mets and the Yankees game. I'm not sure what exactly he's asking for.
I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game because the pitchers that are going are Rick Porcello and the King. I think his first name is Michael. I don't want to mess it up.
Okay.
Michael King. They're both kind of pitch-to-contact guys in Yankee Stadium. Both of these offenses are very good, so it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and with that said, go and watch your baseball games today. It's a Sunday. We thank you for joining us. Unless you have anything else to say, Sean, about today's episode.
Just like in real life, trade deadlines are probably coming up in your fantasy league. So this is going to be your last chance to make trades in fantasy. Ours is tonight at 11 o'clock, 10:59. So to the people in our league,
Central.
Yeah, 10:59 Central. So make those trades if there's somebody you really believe in. It's a risky business this year trading for players, I think, but
we haven't had a trade this year.
No, we have not.
No, I think people are just.
I think I might be hitting up a few teams to try and make a deal.
Yeah, good luck with that. But with that being said, thank you guys for joining us on this baseball and brunch edition of the Total Bases podcast. I hope we've been helpful. I hope we've been informative. And then go out and enjoy the rest of your baseball games on this glorious Sunday afternoon. Peace, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.